So trying to take the Saints' current roster of 61 players, putting it in a depth chart and examining where you're at, well, not a whole lot of good news there. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So there officially there's no depth chart right now, obviously, but it's a 61 man roster. And first thing about that is technically it's not. It's 57. I created to the best of my ability of what I was judging would likely be the depth chart if this was the roster we were actually taking into the season, and thankfully it or hopefully it won't be. But I left four names off, so if you count them up, there's only going to be 57 players on there when I show it to you. That's because Ryan Ramchuk's retiring. We kind of all known that was coming, and Juwan Johnson, tight end, Chase Young, and Tano Pascal, two defensive linemen. They basically technically have a contract, but they're just voided years. No salary on it, no money. So unless we restructure them or give them a new contract, they are in effect free agents right now. It's just because we have about $17 million in dead money between the three of them, they technically stay on the roster till the new league starts and we do something with them. And if we don't do anything, they basically become free agents and we eat the 17 mil this year. The rest of it is it's tough. I mean, I knew there were six receivers, but this is why it's tough is because you can start with Olave and Shaheed. There's your two starters, two NFL level wide receivers when healthy. They both are sitting on injury concerns. And when you're looking behind them, you've got Austin Jr. and then Wilson Jr. means look, Wilson Jr. is an aging, kind of declining veteran receiver. He was a good kind of veteran guy to have, I think, last year because Shaheed and Olave were both second year guys, a little young. You wanted that veteran presence. I get it. I don't know if you can keep him around on your roster right now. Austin Jr. and Means, if you were to look at their seasons overall, you'd be largely unimpressed because Austin Jr., for whatever reason, it took a coaching change to finally get him off the practice squad and even give him a shot. It means injury problems beset him basically since we drafted him. But in both their cases, there were a couple of games and a couple of plays in those games where you see something, you go, wow, if we could, in the case of Austin Jr., recognize the potential a little earlier and try to develop him. And in the case of Means, figure out a way to, and hopefully we will, our medical staff to keep guys on the field and healthy. What could they have been? Tipton is the last guy, Mason Tipton, and I really don't know, but he's fast. Who knows? So you got six receivers on your roster, two top guys with injury issues, a veteran that I don't know, and then three young guys in various states of development that you're going to need them to develop. Tight end, you really only have one guy in Foster Moreau. Hoker, Jacobson, two young guys. Hoker got some snaps. Jacobson never did. And the last guy on the list is Welch. If you notice, I have an asterisk by his name, and those are the players that I forgot we even had. And when I was trying to create this depth chart, I kept having to go back and look up and go, wait, where are we missing guys? So you'll see them periodically out. But yeah, Trayton Welch, totally forgot we even had a fourth tight end, so to speak. Left tackle, look, you're good at Fawaga, it looks like. Back up with, I believe his name's Jake Paul. Not really sure. He showed up on our roster late in the year, and he's still there. Saldivari, another guy could not keep him on the field. Backed up by undrafted free agent Kyle Hergel. You got one center, Eric McCoy. You got Ruiz, who I know opinions vary on him and some of them quite wildly, but he was at least he he wasn't terrible. There's something to work with there. So I don't really have a problem with the right guard position, except you don't really have a backup there either. Or maybe it's Hergel, but right now you only really have one backup guard for one guy that's hurt and one guy that you're still trying to develop and get to where you think his ability should be because he was a former first round pick. Right tackle Penning, if he stays there, depending on what happens, Aziram was our 7th round pick last year. Ashrick had to look him up. I'm not going to touch quarterbacks right now. I think that's kind of there's so much going on there that right now it's Carr, Rattler, Hayner, and Danucci. Um, and until something happens, because there's likely to be something there that will happen, and it's probably its own video. But for right now, there's the 4 guys, and that's obviously the order they're going to be in. Uh, had to put it Taysom somewhere, and I didn't have enough spots at tight end, so I put him at fullback. And I forgot we had Valladay, a running back that's been hanging out on practice squad. Kind of threw him at fullback because the 4 slots at halfback, you're okay with Kamara, but he is getting closer to the end every year. Miller can't keep him healthy. Williams, I do not see where you're going to keep him on your roster. And then Mims, the guy that we carried all year, but just even when we were thin at running back, we just didn't like to get him on the field and get him the ball for whatever reason. He's still around. Defensively, it gets a little worse. Cam Jordan, don't know what's going to happen there. There's a lot going on between being a veteran and being a very expensive, probably overpaid veteran. 2 young guys that I couldn't remember that they were there, Anderson and Peterson, are younger guys. I think they're both in their mid-20s and have been around the league for a while, but they haven't been here very long. Asterisks behind their name because I had to look them up. In the interior, Saunders, Brzee, Shepard, Ridgeway, and Boyd. There's issues all up and down there, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. But outside of Brzee's pass rush, in Saunders/Shepard, maybe one, but I don't see both sticking around just because you are going to need some depth there. And I don't know if you can roll over that whole position in 1 year. No development out of Boyd. This one's a problem. And you go to the other side of the line with edge rush, you're okay with Granderson. Foskey's Foskey. His time's running out that he needs to get on the field and show something, and I don't know if he ever will. Probably get by another year at linebacker. Warner and Davis stay healthy, and Davis doesn't have too sharp of a fall off age wise. If you keep him around, you'll probably be okay. But both are stacking up injury histories now, and that's where it starts getting tricky because the guys behind him, I don't know how much you rely on there. McKinstry looks like he was a good pick for us, but we'll see. He's going to go into his first full year, but I think he'll be okay. I think Peyton's flashed a little bit. He's kind of like the young receivers we were talking about earlier, but just not on the field a lot, but he's looked very good in special teams. Gray's basically a special teamer, had to put him somewhere. Howden, I think at this point, even though I know he's a former 3rd-day pick, you were expecting to see more for him. To his credit, one good thing he does do that helps our defense. It's a fairly solid tackler compared to some of the other guys that miss all the time. But I just don't know if that's enough. Trey Fluellen, forgot we had him. Ashrick. Honey Badger, you just don't know. Like some of the other names on the defensive side, what does he have left in the tank and how long you're going to be able to have him? And can you keep him healthy? Bradford, undrafted rookie behind him. Alontae Taylor got picked on quite a bit late last year when he had to move from the inside to the outside. But I know there's talent there. I know there's playmaking talent with him. They've just got to figure it out. Rajon Wright came in and I think played fairly solid for injury time for some of the, because Lattimore was traded away and hurt most of the year when we did have him. Paulson Debo got hurt. Wright was a guy that kind of saw a little bit towards the end as the numbers were going down and did okay. The one place that I feel good at is special teams because we have two good kickers, we have a good punter, and we have a good long snapper. Like finally coming across to somewhere on the depth chart where you're going, hey, yeah, that's pretty solid stuff right there that we can work with. You look at this depth chart, just the roster in general, but trying to make a depth chart because it took a little while to even get to that point where I could put a list of names out there and go, I think this is the order or where they might be playing, but there's holes. I mean, it really is critical conditions, but the prognosis isn't like fatal by any stretch. But there's a lot of work. And when I did the video kind of on Kellen Moore coming in, still at the recording of this video, to still not 100%, still a strong 99.99, but we're expecting to hear something soon. But in that video, I was talking about a lot of work. The coach staff, he's got a lot of work, a lot of work. And I'd been working on creating this depth chart, knowing all along how difficult it was and where I was getting this. And this is it's gonna take some guys that know what they're doing in the coaching staff to be able to develop this or be able because a large until something roster changes are made. I mean, what you're looking at is a large chunk of this roster. A lot of these names are going to be on the field in 2025. And the two things that come to mind, got to keep them healthy, and a lot of them you're going to have to get a lot better. Like I said, I feel like the diagnosis, the evaluation, examination, the physical, as it were, it's they're in critical condition right now. But again, I don't think the prognosis is fatal. But when you're looking at, because the whole reason why I was doing this is because I needed to visualize it in some type of depth chart form in preparation for upcoming free agency. If we can even, I don't know what we can do in there, but definitely the draft. Going, what are the positions in need and why? D line, I think everybody right on top of that, but especially the interior, especially run stoppers and or some type of space eaters, space movers. The Super Bowl last night showed a team that can run the ball and stop the other team from running in the modern NFL right now, the way the game is played. You make your life easier, a lot easier that way, trying to get a win. And if you're looking at our defensive interior, you said you got one or two guys that can really get at the pass rusher, especially Brzee, Saunders, Shepard, maybe at times. But there's just not there to stop the run. And that is a major concern on so many levels. Good thing in this draft, you may be able to draft and solve some of those problems or begin to solve some of those problems. It may take you two drafts or a period to a free agency to help out. Edge rusher. Look, guys on the edge, despite age, and Granderson's like 29. Cam's on the wrong side of 30. Foskey hasn't shown us anything. So you really only have two guys, and you don't know the level of play and how much longer you're going to have either one of them. You need to start thinking about what you're going to do on the edge. You're probably going to need to add more than one, or hopefully somebody can light a fire into Foskey and he can get anywhere near whatever potential they saw in him when they drafted him in the second round. But regardless, they need to add at least one fast switch, explosive, get around the edge and get in that quarterback's face. And if he's mobile enough to get out of the pocket, you got a chance to go run him down, or at least run him down and force him to make a pass he doesn't want to make or throw the ball away. Something. We had none of that really the last couple of years. Just about everybody else in the league has at least one. Now, it may not be a good one. He may not get a ton of sacks, but they have at least one. We have zero. They really need to find somebody that on those third and longs you can just unleash, go create havoc, get the quarterback on the ground, get him off his spot, get him out the pocket, but do something. Just don't let him sit there, get comfortable, and throw dimes all over our defensive backs, like happened way too much last year. You Turn around on the offensive line on the line of scrimmage on the offensive side, the interior line, need help. Need help now. You really only have three. One's an undrafted rookie, and one is a guy that just was making the move from tackle to guard and couldn't stay healthy. I don't know if you want to hang your hat on that. Never mind that you have no depth there, but you definitely need some bring some players in there. My opinion also, you need a backup center. I need an understudy for Eric McCoy. I cannot go through what we went through last year that when you lost McCoy and you kept trying to take guards who can play center, sticking them under center, and watching your whole offensive line get affected. And you were starting a young guy, a rookie, left tackle. You had other guys making movements. Other than Ruiz and McCoy, everything was kind of young and unsettled, those other positions. And it ain't helping them out when you're trying to take the 32-year-old backup guard you signed from somewhere and go, oh, you can play center too, and shoving him out there. When we brought in a true center, the guy McGivern, whatever, I can't even remember his name, sorry, from the Jets, brought him in to understudy or to play for McCoy, just some experience of actually being a center and not a guy that, I play center when everybody else is hurt, like we were trying to do. Now, I'm not saying it was the same as when McCoy was there, but if you believe anything in PFF and their film study and grades, and you can go look at him when he's in, and all of a sudden everybody around him was grading out better and playing better. Then we lost him. McCoy lost again. Then we were back to that guard pretend center shuffle, and you saw the results start to slide back down. Find him one, but they need to. That's a need, especially now. You have to worry about McCoy's injury history after what happened last year. Tight end, basically, need. All you have is Moreau. And again, there's another veteran there that while you need a veteran presence, and he was good for you last year, condition of what they're trying to do and what they want to do, is he coming back? And even if he isn't, he's pretty much the only one there. You still need having to add something to the table at that position. Safety's a need. We need playmakers. We just don't have them. We just do not have any playmakers anymore at safety. Honey Badger, I love you. I really, really do. And he has his moments, as like all of them kind of do. But when you're looking at a lot of these large chunks of these playoff teams the last few weeks, they got safeties running around making plays or just cleaning stuff up where big plays aren't happening. And we know from our defense this past year, the two things that plagued us, we did not make enough big plays, especially from the safety position, and we gave up explosive plays like it was Christmas. That is a position of need that I don't even know if anybody's really acknowledging. But you don't have enough there right now. You got to find it. You either got to develop it or you have to find it. I would say that everything else kind of falls in a position of depth. Almost all the ones we just talked about as need, depth is an issue there too. But the bigger need is actually probably some of the starters you're thinking are going to be starters may actually be a depth. So one or two really good players may solve a lot of issues in those groups. We'll see. But outside of that, you're not bad at running back. But because of age and injury, you need to add some depth. Linebacker, like I said, I think you can get by one more year. But age and potential injury issues compounding again off of last year. You need to add some depth, or you damn sure develop some of those young guys that we keep hearing are going to be good one day. One day's here. They need to be good. Probably need to add some depth at offensive tackle. Zerum was just a practice squad guy. I don't know. Never heard anything about that. No clue. It's sort of like Boyd, our other, I think, 6th round last year, but day 3 draft pick, both heard nothing. Total crickets. Don't know what's going on there. I would like for them to show up this year and all of a sudden start turning heads and going, okay, we developed them. But I just don't have faith that the previous coaching staff and philosophy and everything, that anything was going on with those two young men. So I don't know. I think the one position We may be okay. It's maybe okay to likely okay as cornerback. Um, think Taylor just they need to find a spot for him, put him there. I think McKinstry's okay. Couple of young guys, maybe we can get him to step up, or maybe one addition, whether it's a veteran, find somebody in the draft. But I think for the most part, outside of our kicker, punter, and long snapper, corner may be the most stable position. And overall, that is just a it's not a good place to be. It's one of the reasons why um, for the last few weeks it was like I don't want to say 2025 can is a write off, but I do feel like it's going to be very difficult if you have one of those magical drafts. We know 2017, 2006, like we had then. Yeah, 4 or 5 really good players coming in through the draft can solve a lot of those problems. And in those years too, I think it always kind of gets passed over because you focus so much on the draft. We did a good job of what really good NFL teams do when they're playoff type organizations. And we used to be good at this. Is go and find the guy nobody wanted or the guy that got caught in this when the sort of like safeties last year and some of them got caught when all of a sudden the pay for all of them come down and you have a good player sitting out there wanting to get paid by the time you start getting close to training camp, none of them have jobs and they start signing. You saw that in real time last year with safety. So somewhere along those lines, you may be able to fix some of these problems in addition. And that's how you can get a year like 2006 exceeded 2005. Kind of had to do some work the next 2 years, but we all know what happened in '09 and the next couple of years. Very similar situation. I think that exists here. If you get really lucky and the coaching staff turns out to be really good and the front office really gets their crap together and gets back to filling that roster, maybe. But I think overall, what I'm looking at there, you got some work to do. You got to find some of those to have a shot. Some of those names that I even have probably asterisk totally forgotten about while I was trying to make the depth chart come through for you. But more than likely, you're kind of looking at 2006. I think deep down, that's what that's what it's going to boil down to. So look, I don't know. All I know is that's not the type of depth chart or roster. Just overall, where you going? Yay for us! Good football players on there. Don't get me wrong. Pretty good chance we've got some developmental guys in there that may never be all pros, but maybe some of those solid roster fillers and depth pieces that on paper we still don't have right now. Um, it is what it is, and I knew it was rough. Bad, maybe even the total construction as it stood right now. But when you really start trying to piece together and go, who's likely to start, who's backing them up, not only are we gonna have to be lucky, we're gonna have to be healthy, and we're gonna have to rely on some coaches doing some great, amazing things while they're coaching this. But again, like I said earlier, hopefully it's just 2025 by 2026. A lot of that straightened out. A year from now, I'd like to be able to make a depth chart and go, all right, we have one position of need and four position of depth instead of I know where we are now. So been wanting to do this one. The coaching thing had kind of kept me busy. So I had elements of this, even if some of those other videos, you're probably picking up some of the stuff when I was kind of looking through the 61 on the roster and what it really meant. So there it is. I think this is the basis now that and it kind of works out in a sort of way. We've got the coach, kind of know what the roster and vaguely with the depth chart, as scary as it looks in some places, might look like now between salary cap, potential free agency that hopefully we can do something in there in the draft, trying to fix that, trying to make that roster going, okay, that's something semblance the coaching staff can work with. and then let's start moving on to get everything and everybody better. So, to echo what I said earlier, yeah, soon as they announce the head coach, they have the pomp and circumstance ceremony, signing of whatever, press conference, all that stuff. Right after that, we'll live stream. And another reason why I want to try to get this one out, I don't know if we'll talk about it then, but it's going to be the next topic of conversation because the next likely live stream is around the combine, which will be coming up in a couple of weeks. So, till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.